This week may well define the Bucks season and their immediate future. We dig into the upcoming schedule, the challenges in December, and more of As the World Turns Around Giannis coming up next on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Bucks. I am Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day, each and every day. And to all the everydayers or anybody just casually checking out the show as well that have helped make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcasting network in the industry. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Camille, I don't think it is too hyperbolic to say this month and quite possibly this 2-week stretch here is going to determine a lot of the future of the Bucks here. We had mentioned already 2 weeks ago now, a week ago, the kind of like grip the steering wheel, hold on for dear life. If you can get to like a game below 500 coming out of December, then you feel okay. You're kind of where the Pacers were last year, and just say, let's just start to play better. Like, that's behind us. We're healthy now, knock on wood. We know what we need to do. Let's tackle that, and let's be a better team in the second half of the calendar year. That all changed when Giannis went down against the Pistons 3 minutes into the game. And now you're faced with a very, very stark reality that you are closer to the worst record in the conference than you are getting out of the play-in tournaments. I mean, you're almost closer to the worst record in the conference than you are the 9 seed right now. So it's put up or shut up time. And we've heard some of that from Kyle Kuzma. It begs the question, which we've discussed a lot already, on what the organization's goal is facing this, but it's frankly too early to go down that path. But it's now or never for this group. Like, if you're going to turn it around and win and make something of this season here while you still have Giannis in tow, it has to start Thursday against the Celtics. And not only that, it has to carry out throughout this month of December, which isn't the most pressing schedule, but the Celtics have been playing incredibly. The Raptors have gone on a bit of a slide now, and they got one more game between now and you playing them, which will be against the the Miami Heat, who lost in the other quarterfinals game. You got a 5-game road trip, which is not like a West Coast road trip. You got the Timberwolves on there, but the Hornets are on there. The Bulls are on there. The Grizzlies have been playing better. It's still not world beaters. So if you had Giannis right now, I think you look at it and say, yes, they can absolutely start to right the ship here and peel off a win streak. The fact that you don't, and you've looked as poor as you have without him on the floor, is what gives you that concern of 10 games, 9 games left, I think it is, something in this month. If you go 2-7, and we're already talking about a team that's 12-22, then that's where it's going to start to get really pressing, and the chatter is going to pick up quite a bit. I think it was Kyle Kuzma, the first one that kind of said, like, it's now or never for our guys. So that the players are certainly aware of it. There's other things the players are aware of we'll get to later in the show. But really, this game against the Celtics is going to be very telling, because as we mentioned, it's a tough opponent. They're playing great right now, but you got 4 days off. And we've heard from Doc, they are practicing yesterday, Tuesday. They're practicing today as well. They'll have some type of walkthrough on Thursday. So you need to see the results of that tomorrow night against Boston.
You got to start to see something. You got to start to see something. The Bucks are 1-7 without Giannis so far this season. And to your point about it being sink or swim, and I think it was cool. I think that's how he was, sink or swim time. Like, you either gonna figure it out, or you gonna drown in this pool right now. And The standings are interesting because, to your point, the Bucks are 5.5 games out from the worst record in the conference, but they're also 5.5 games out from the 3 seed. So it's like you're in this spot right now where you're kind of in that middle of the pack in the sense of
But the difference there, they're 6 back in the loss column of the 3 seed, and they're 4 back in the loss column of the worst record. So
overall, if you're looking at the games behind and doing that math there, but it's really, it is sink or swim time. Either you're going to start to stack some wins and come out on top, or you're going to continue to fall in the standings, and everything that's already going on around this team is going to get more and more and more loud. And it's already loud, but it's going to continue to get that way. So when you look at their schedule for the rest of the month, you mentioned the 5-game road trip towards the end of the year where they're on the road for Christmas. I said this when the schedule came out of like, man, the league does not want the Bucks home for the holidays because they were on the road for Thanksgiving. They're on the road for Christmas. But they're going to have to make something out of it. And the difference between this Bucks team this go around without Giannis and then that last time is that at least you have Kevin Porter Jr. Now, we have seen the 2 games already. They came up short against Philly. They came up short against Detroit. So it's still not like, hey, that's going to solve all the problems. But it's a Bucks team that we know can play better than what we have seen. Like playing without Giannis, that's tough. It's a team that's designed to have Giannis in the center of it, and you're asking guys to do a whole bunch of things that they might not have expected their role to be, knowing that Giannis is going to be in the middle of it, but they have to figure it out at this point. Like there's it really is like either you're going to figure it out or you're not. And if the answer is not figuring it out, there's going to be a lot of change in Milwaukee, it feels like.
A lot. And if we look at what's in front of them now and go all the way up through the first week of January, up until you get into the meaty parts of the West Coast road trip, this includes game 1 of that road trip. But it's 11 games that sit between now and when you play the Warriors in the back end of that first West Coast trip or Western Conference trip.
Start the new year off.
Yeah, so you start that trip in Sacramento, but the last 3 games at the Warriors, at the Lakers, at the Nuggets, very challenging, especially if Giannis is potentially still out, because we heard it's a 2 to 4 week timeline. I don't take that to mean, even hearing Doc Rivers say before, I think the Sixers game, I think it's going to be more the 4 week variety, and that doesn't mean he's back 4 weeks, especially as we've seen now. I don't want to say it's like it's become a trend, but we've seen multiple calf issues with Giannis now. And that, I think any athlete will tell you, that's the one, like the red flag of like, nope, we got to be really, really cautious with the calves. 11 games that sit between now and the end of that West Coast road trip where it starts to get really, really hairy. And even after that, man, the back end of January is going to be brutal because you have those 3 games that we mentioned all on the road. Then you come home for 1 game, and it's against the Timberwolves. Then you go on the road for 2, and it's at San Antonio, at Atlanta on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Then you do have a 3-game homestand, but it's the Thunder, the Denver Nuggets, and the Dallas Mavericks, who've been playing better and quite frankly have been basically what you are for the last, 2 weeks or so. Then you go on another 3-game road trip at Philly, at Washington, who's already beat you at home, and at Boston to basically close out January into February. So that is rough. And if you don't get it turned around ASAP, because I do believe the goal is that, right? Like we've tiptoed and hinted at, well, at what point do you decide the die is cast and we should just try to play for a draft pick? The players do not feel that way. Even the organization, you don't feel that way in December. Like those are conversations that you start to have when they're forced, when it gets to late or mid-January and your record is what it is, or if some outside chatter off the court starts to pick up as well. But they're not there yet. So that's why we're sticking with this is important to do something in these next 11 games. And as challenging as it's going to be without Giannis for, if not all, most of those games, do you see a path, Camille, as the the most optimistic side you have, do you see a path where they could win 7 of 11 games? And really quick, those games, home against the Celtics tomorrow, on the road against the Nets on Sunday, the Raptors at home 1 week from tomorrow. So you play 3 games in a span of like 8 days. Yeah. Then that 5-game road trip is at Minnesota, at Indiana, at Memphis, at Chicago, at Charlotte. And your next 3 then are Wizards at home, Hornets at home, Kings on the road. Is there any scenario without Giannis you see and you look at that and say, yes, I think that team can win 7 of those 11 games?
Ooh, 7 might be a little high.
I think that gives me the answer.
7 might be a little high, but I think they can win at least 6. Like
6 is the bare minimum.
Like they can do that because Boston, like you mentioned, has been playing better. Brooklyn, I feel like that's a team you should be able to beat. Toronto might be a struggle. Minnesota might be a struggle. Honestly, Indy was a struggle even when they had Giannis, but it feels like a game that they could win depending on who Indy has available. Memphis is kind of a wild card. The Bucks have not played well in Memphis over the last few years, even when they had guys
played
out.
Well, let's put it mildly.
Like, even when guys were out in Memphis, that still wasn't a go. So optimistic, let's say they can get Memphis. You can get Chicago. You can get Charlotte. Although we have seen Charlotte beat Milwaukee as well so far this season. And you can
I've seen the Wizards do it.
Yeah, you can get Washington. And then you have Charlotte again. You could get them. So that's like 7 right there. So like it's possible. And y'all know I'm like the most optimistic. But
that's coded for Camille doesn't think so.
I love the optimistic side of like looking through it. I can see 6-7 wins from what they have coming up. And Sacramento, honestly, the Bucks owe them one. Like you kind of got to get that one back. Sacramento is still messed up over there in Sacramento. So like, is there a pathway forward for it? Yes. Has this team shown me enough so far this season to give me confidence to stand on that? No. And that's the part in my brain where I'm trying to reconcile it of like what I've seen. I can't be like, absolutely, it's going to happen, but I still believe it can happen if they can turn some things around.
Okay. How it can happen. Maybe that's more valuable. We'll start to peel into those layers. Some of what Ty and I talked about yesterday as well. We'll get your thoughts on as it pertains to one specific player. Another one you've already mentioned. So we'll get into the how coming up after this on Locked On Bucks. Well, there's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially this time of year during the holidays. And right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take control of your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. You set it up in minutes, and you can bring your own phone and number without any issues. The service is fast and super reliable, even on the go. It just feels good knowing you're not overpaying just to stay connected. So turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings feature by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required. Taxes and fees. Initial plan term only. 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com for details. So how they're going to get there. Biggest piece to me, Camille, but the biggest way they're going to get there is one name you already mentioned, and that's Kevin Porter Jr. And what we've seen from him. I think we both talked about this over the summer. I know we talked about it on the Here District with Marcus and Chris. We talked about it quite a bit on this show with who's going to be the second leading scorer. We both maintained Kevin Porter Jr. is the second most important player on this team. And I thought the second most talented player. I will be honest, I did not envision this. And I know it is a small sample, but Kevin Porter Jr. has been electric so far this season, and you're seeing a lot of the guy, the good ways, the talent and the scoring ability that you saw in Houston. And Houston, we'll leave it at. So that's been a godsend for this team that very, very sorely needs it. So Kevin Porter Jr. as your offensive machine is the biggest way to get there. That is step one. But I think you're going to be aligned with me here when I say step two is Miles Turner. And I'm not laying it at the feet of Miles. I'm not solely laying it at the feet of the coaching staff or the organization. There is a shared blame here. How much of the piece of the pie goes, who gets the larger piece, is certainly debatable, and I think we're starting to get some answers on that. But Miles Turner just has to be better. It's been disappointing, and to be better, you have to put him in a position to be better, where he's played, when he's played, and how you're using him. It feels like in some ways when you watch this, it almost seems like the notion is just like, we got Brook Lopez, but he's younger, and they're completely different players. So at this point, we're a third of the way into the season. Like the conversations should have already been there if they haven't been. But at this point, it has to be a dialogue of, look, what's going to get you going? Where do you want to get the ball? What are some things that worked for you in Indy? What are some things that make you comfortable? What are some things you want to bring to this offense? And let's start to sprinkle those in here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, I mean, even in training camp leading up to the season, one thing we heard them mentioning, I think Doc was talking about it with Miles Turner. He's like, I love the fact that he's a better playmaker than what I expected. You can actually give him the ball in the elbow and kind of let him work from that area on the floor. Haven't really seen too much of that. And to Doc's admission, they did use Miles a lot, probably too much, solely as a popper. Like just go and pop and do that. And he mentioned, like, now we're mixing in more roles, but like, let's even diversify that even a bit further. And to the Miles Turner point of it, I did see his, what do you want to call it? His availability after practice yesterday.
Yeah.
Where he took ownership of himself of saying, there are things that I need to be doing better. I need to rebound better. I need to make sure that I am playing at a level that I know I can play at. So like you said, it's not just coaching. It's not just Miles. Both of these things need to come together, and it's going to be a lot on his plate going forward. And yes, the rebounding, that's one area for Miles where it's like, go after a big man, go after a big fella. We need you to do that, especially without Giannis in the lineup. Have to have it happen. Even if you're not the one getting the ball, make sure you got a body on somebody. Like, that's for everybody. That's for everybody. You got to make sure you have a body on somebody. You can't just ball watch. So for the Bucks, like you mentioned, Kevin Porter Jr. is a big part. Miles Turner is a big part of it. And ultimately, the question comes down to, for me, and I'm curious to know what you think, is can this defense perform better at a more sustainable level continuously? So, like, we've seen spurts where the defense ramps up and you're like, okay, that's good rotations. You're doing everything right here. And then you see times where they're getting beat at the point of attack. They're fouling. They're doing all these different things. Like, I think for the Bucks over this next month without Giannis, and we know Giannis is an all-world safety in the regards of how great he is as a help defender, how you can utilize him in different ways, but he's not here. And the whole premise of this team going forward was like more youth, more athleticism. We're going to pick up full court. We're going to do all these other things here, and we're going to try to be sweaty on defense. And we have seen that defense tends to be the way forward for this team. Defense has not been the way forward for this team, especially without Giannis. And I get like putting Jericho Sims in the lineups and trying to get him there for the rebounds and everything like that. But I saw an article from Eric Name over at The Athletic earlier this week talking about how the Bucks numbers have actually taken a major hit with Sims this season. Like, if you look at the on-off numbers on cleaning the glass, the Bucks have been 24.9 points per 100 possessions worse with Sims on the floor this season. So it's like, what are the trade-offs here? Is the rebounding that he's trying to give you, which hasn't really improved too much, is that worth the playing time? Like, I think it's a lot of different things. It's like I said, Kevin Porter Jr., it's Miles Turner, it's the defense, and also it's putting together the right rotations on the floor. Like, we got to try to figure that part out too. And I know it's tough. AJ Green's a maybe for Boston, although based on how Doc said it, I don't personally expect AJ Green on Thursday, but it seems like he could be close, and they're going to need that shooting from him. So it's like all these different factors are floating around of like, if you can do this, if you can do this, if you can do this, and you can do this, something could be here. But it's like, do you have the faith in them to be able to pull all those different strings together to tie this up and actually make this run?
Jericho Sims, the numbers that you mentioned, interesting. There's a couple other interesting ones about Miles I want to get to, and something Ty and I referenced just to show the visual. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If you're listening to us, then it gives you the incentive to jump to YouTube and check out what we're pulling up here. So we'll get to that coming up after this on Locked On Bucks. Time to talk about our friends over at Game Time, the World Cup coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive, but let's be honest, getting tickets seems like that's going to be the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands. It makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple. You scroll through the matchups for any of these games you're looking at, compare seat views, pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets loaded within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for the fine print either. And that seat view that I mentioned, that's the real game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. So take the guesswork of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go with Game Time. All right, Camille. What, by the way, what do you think is going to be the tougher seat to snag? Some World Cup tickets or this Saturday to see the retirement of a legend? We should have incorporated that in the Game Time read. I want to get to what you mentioned about the Jericho Sims on off, but Ty and I mentioned this yesterday in getting Jericho Sims, getting Miles Turner in the groove and getting him more comfortable. Because, I mean, at this point, if you're going forward without Giannis in the short term, at least, he is the second most important player on your team. This is Miles Turner's shot chart this season. What stands out, if anything, in this shot chart to you?
Boy, it's a lot of threes. Not that many mid-rangers, which is an area of his game that he actually has. Was one of the areas when looking at like the Brook Lopez to Miles Turner comparison of like, hey, well, one thing Miles can do is he can get to the mid-range and he can score there, and it's not much there.
And again, this is 25 games. This is 24 that Miles played in, right? So this is a third of your season, basically. But yes, a lot of threes, a lot of above the break threes, and not quite as much around the rim, and basically nothing in that mid-range spot. And even there, he hasn't hit them.
Yeah.
This is last year with the Indiana Pacers, where all of those areas we talked about, above the break is his spot. That's where he's going to take the threes. But all of us remember those 20 games last year, the year prior to that the Bucks played against the Pacers, and where Miles Turner would kill the Bucks. In that spot where you see all the green dots in the center, in the mid-range, going up against a drop defense. Tony mentioned that with me before the season too. Hey, he'll do really good against the Pistons. He'll have good games. He always has against the Pistons and other teams that are going to run a drop because he's just going to pull up to the free throw line and hit those free throws on pick and pops or whatever the action is. This year, last year, like it's
drastic.
It is laughable just how much you're using him like Brook Lopez. It's completely gone this season. That should be step one of, okay, I get it's not an efficient shot to be taking those mid-range shots, but same conversation we had years ago with Chris Middleton. If it's something that gets you going, then it's something that we're going to reinstitute into the offense. We're not going to lean into it, but you're going to take more of those.
Yeah, take more of them. Also, like the Chris Middleton is a great example of it because it was hearing him talk on the Nasus podcast, and he was like, he credits Bud, like they bumped heads about that, but he credits Bud because he said Bud actually helped me expand my game to the 3-point line where I felt comfortable taking those, pull-ups at the three and extending my game out there, but still loved operating in the mid-range. And for Miles, it feels very similar of like, yes, I can shoot the three, but like I also want to incorporate this into my game. And it's like, well, we can't have it all mid-range. We can't have it all threes. It has to be some type of happy medium. And the Bucks have not found that particular happy medium with Miles Turner so far this season. And honestly, I even want to try to see them get him in mismatches more often so that he can try to do something around the rim more often because he is skilled at doing that too. And the Bucks have not been a team historically over the last few years to hunt mismatches, but like Turner is somebody who can really take advantage of those.
Yeah, this year he's taken 12 of those shots that are in the mid-range up until three, the mid-range basically. So your 16-footer to a three-point shot. He's taken 12 of those shots this year. Now he's made 6 of them, so he's shooting 50% on those. But only 12 of those field goal attempts so far this year. You contrast that to last year, he took 69 of them. And if we again look at this as it's basically a third of the way through the season, he's going to be on pace to take half as many of those shots as he did a season ago. 82 of the short mid-range shots is what he took a season ago. This year he's taken 20 of those. So all across the board, the numbers in the mid-range are down. His 3-point, accuracy it's Ty and I joked about this on yesterday's show too. It kind of, in many ways, the story here is like, wow, we're using him like Brook Lopez, and some things remind me of Brook Lopez because to see Miles is shooting 39% on threes, I think a lot of fans would be surprised by that and think
he got to a slow start.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Similar to what we've seen from Brook in years and similar to what we saw from Gary last year. But that to me is the biggest takeaway. And we just mentioned it yesterday, but I felt like, no, we need to show this. And just, this is what it looks like right now. So like, this is step one. Get more shots there. And if you can do that too, like you're going to also pull guys away from the rim. I know it's not quite as much that you're pulling them away, but it's still going to be moderately effective in creating up some of that space underneath in the dunker spot or in any cuts, which is another thing outside of Miles that we just got to see more guys cutting and movement here because, it feels like where this offense has died on the vine is the same place it did routinely with Giannis on the floor. And we just see a lot of ball watching or the ball is just swinging around the perimeter, which you always hear about ball movement. It is important, right? You don't want to see a couple of dribbles and a shot or one pass and that's it. You got to move it from side to side, but you have to do more than move the ball. You have to move your body. You have to get into the paint and cause the defense to react. Because if you're just swinging around the perimeter, great, we can just rotate over or we can stay in front of our guy. But if you're getting into the paint and forcing me to stay in front of you or move or forcing two guys to defend one, that's how you create those looks.
Truly. I mean, when you think about when the Bucks have their defensive breakdowns, a lot of it comes from guys are being able to move the ball, they touch paint, get you guys in rotations, whatever the case may be. Like, you want to do that too. Like, you always hear about you want the ball moves faster than the player. And that's very true. But if the players aren't moving, it's not moving any faster. So you have to insert all of the other off-ball movement, all the cuts and all the things of that sort. So again, like when Kyle Kuzma has played his best, we haven't mentioned Kyle, but like you see him on like the off-ball cuts, you see him moving, the movement in his game. And it's going to have to be like that for the entire team. Like guys can't just stand still. Guys can't just bring the ball up and be the only one to touch the ball there unless it's a situation where, it's an advantage. So they just go and take it. But ultimately, like offensively, they have to make sure they're moving the ball, moving their bodies. Defensively, got to try to stay in front of their guys, stop fouling, kind of play on the string a little bit more. So yeah, man, it's Justin, let's continue.
All right. So pace is another thing we didn't spend much time on. I don't know if you have any, as we start to wrap up here, do you have any thoughts on their pace? Because like we hear the edict from every team coming into the season, we're going to take more threes and we're going to play faster. And a couple have held true to that. Miami certainly has, but the Bucks have basically plateaued in their 3-point volume. And now pace, they've slid all the way down to 23rd, that they're playing at a pace under 100 so far this season. So that, I don't want to say lip service, but we haven't seen them hold up their end of the bargain in that regard, that they have not been a faster team so far this season. You go back to last year,
they're playing slower than they were last year, aren't they?
They played at a faster pace last year. Now, granted, very, very slightly, but it was a faster pace, and it was 14th in the league. They were the first team outside of playing at a pace of 100. So, yes, they're playing slower, and the rest of the league is playing faster.
Yeah, and it's the part about that's disappointing is that in October, when they were 4-1, when things were looking good, and I was like, man, this is a fun basketball team to watch. They were like 9th in pace. Like their pace in the month of October was 103.1. Top 10 pace in the league. November, it tanked. It dropped down to 24th, and now they've stabilized, as you mentioned, around 23rd in the league. So I think another reason that's like all of this has been disappointing is because like the way they started the season, where you're like, hey, this could be something. Even the 3-point attempts, they weren't top 10 in 3-point attempts in that first month in the season. But, they were shooting almost 40. They were shooting like 39 threes a game in October. Again, very small sample size, only 5 games. But that's what was like, okay, this is what you talk about all training camp. Now we're starting to see the fruit of it. Let's see how they continue to build from it. And they have not built from it. Like, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen the defensive pressure that was talked about. I haven't seen the threes at a higher rate that was talked about. The pace hasn't been what was talked about. So it's disappointing over the last month and a half here of basketball for the Bucks.
They were 6th in October, and they were 24th in November. So far, they're 20th in December, but it's moving up at least. And look, pace is not the end-all, be-all, because look at the teams that so far in December are at the bottom. And actually, that's not a great view. Let's just look at the season as a whole. The teams that are at the bottom, the Celtics are last. The Rockets are 27th. The Knicks are 26th. The Suns, who have been playing really well, are 25th. The Lakers are 22nd. So the Nuggets are 20th. So it doesn't mean you're going to be bad, but you can play at a slower pace if you have elite half-court scores, which is one of the reasons why we saw the Bucks playing at a slower pace with Dame. When you don't have that, that's one way to generate offense is let's just outrun teams and let's create those looks with quick looks and just be the faster, more athletic team. So you're kind of just like stuck in between. You have to pick one lane to go to here, which I think is something that applies outside of the team in a bigger picture as well. We've talked a lot about it, and I know people are fatigued and they're bored with this, probably bored. And also like, you just don't want to hear any more about it. You don't want to think about the possibility of Giannis not playing for this team. We're all there. We'll spare you today because it's not a whole lot that's changed. I mean, there's an Instagram story from Giannis. There's more reporting yesterday from Chris Haynes and Shams. Nothing new, and I don't anticipate to hear anything new. The only thing I did want to mention really quickly as we wrap here, Camille, is so have you seen Rich Paul and Max Kellerman are doing a podcast together now for the Ring?
Yeah, there were a lot of things to take out of that one.
Well, like, how is that not tampering to and not against the Bucks? Like, how do you have the agent for Jalen Johnson on a podcast saying, well, you know what the Bucks should do is they should say we need Jalen Johnson in this trade? Like,
he's from there and everything.
Right. Like, the Bucks can say, hey, I remember when we got fined for saying we were going to re-sign our own guys. So how is it his agent, and I know it's not the organization saying it, but how is it his agent is allowed to say, you know what, trade for this guy because he's from there and I represent him? Like, that's one of the many things about the league where it's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. That caught me off guard hearing him say that. he also was talking about the Lakers. Like, no, they're not in the Western Conference team. It's like, whoa, what are we doing, Rich? you out here just you saying whatever you feel like. Like, what's your end goal here? Like that's what I always think about now with a lot of media stuff. Is like, what's the end goal? Who benefits from this information? What's the end goal here? And I know you mentioned we ain't gonna talk about the Giannis thing too much, but I've been sick for like a week at least.
Well, it's not a fever dream, Camille. I hate to break it to you.
I know. And I'm also sick already of all of the Giannis conversation going on, because it's one of those things where it's like Giannis could end all this if he wanted to, but he hasn't. So that says something else to me along the way. I'll leave it at that for now.
I'm sure there will be more that happens that will warrant us really digging into it, but we've talked a lot about nothing really new. So I know we mentioned it here, but in terms of a long-term discussion, we figured we'd spare you this go round here. We'll have some more availability from guys today leading into the matchup tomorrow. That's what we're going to dig into on tomorrow's show, is previewing that matchup with the Celtics. You've heard us mention it quite a few times here. The Everydayer Club, you already live your team every day. Make it a level up and go ad free. You can join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Bucks with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more. You get it for just $5 a month, or save even more with the annual $50 a year. We'll paste the URL to do so in the show notes in the description of today's episode of the show. But again, thanks for tuning in to Locked On Bucks each and every day here. Make sure you subscribe and follow the show so you get all the latest episodes. And if we made your Spotify Wrapped list, prove it on social media to secure a free month of the brand new Everydayer Club. Tag our national Locked On Podcast Network on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. You'll be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make that your second listen. NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. And sadly, Camille, NBA Game Night is breaking down Eastern Conference quarterfinals games that for the first time in the history of its existence did not feature the Milwaukee Bucks. Did you watch those games last night? Or were you still out of it with your illness?
I was in and out. That NyQuil and Robitussin ain't no joke, Justin. I tell you. I shouldn't mix those two things together. Now that I'm thinking about it out loud.
What's the meme? I'm not a. What's the meme with the guy laying on the bed and just looking at the picture and longing for things that he used to have?
The Wolverine. Yeah.
Okay. That's how I felt last night watching those two games that really mattered. But tomorrow on the show, we'll get you set for the Bucks and the Celtics again. We've said it a lot, but it's even more true now. It's a really big stretch that starts for the Bucks against a very quality opponent in the Boston Celtics tomorrow. So tomorrow's show, we'll start to preview that matchup. Friday, we'll recap the matchup. That'll do it for today, though. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.